very good morning. You're watching Breakfast News on Rajya TV with me, Tina Jha. These are the top stories we are tracking this morning. President Pranab Mukherjee on 5-day state visit to Sweden and Belarus. It's the first ever visit to these countries by any Indian head of state. Trial run of the Kolkata Dhakatala bus service today. Service to enable people travel between West Bengal and Tripura without changing vehicles. Embarrassment for the TDP ahead of Legislative Council elections in Telangana today. MLA Revant Reddy held for allegedly trying to offer a bribe of 50 lakh rupees. US Senate debates key provisions of the Patriot Act, trying as it tries to avert the expiry of anti-terrorist laws that let security services collect phone data. Children returned to school in Nepal 5 weeks after the devastating earthquake. Low attendance, however, remains a cause of concern. And President Pranab Mukherjee is on a 5-day state visit to Sweden and Belarus. He landed in Sweden early today. This is the first ever visit to these countries by any Indian head of state. A number of key agreements are likely to be signed during the visit.
After a ceremonial send-off at Rashtrapati Bhavan, President Pranab Mukherjee left for his 5-day state visit to Sweden and Belarus. After his arrival in Stockholm, President Mukherjee will meet the King and Queen as well as the Swedish Prime Minister, the Speaker of the Swedish Parliament and the Leader of Opposition. The President is also scheduled to visit the renowned Karolinska Institute and the Uppsala University, the oldest university in Europe, started in 1477. The focus of the visit will be on innovation, sustainable development, urban development and scientific research. Sweden is the third largest contributor of FDI to India, besides being the country's third largest trade partner after China and Japan.
They have created smart cities and the President is going to visit one of them. So there certainly will be a takeaway in terms of urbanization. We hope that when we come back and after the discussions, we can formalize this cooperation, perhaps in the form of MOU or a joint working group or some other modality. There will be takeaways in terms of renewable energy. Sweden is one of the leading proponents of renewable energy, very strong on environment. There will be takeaways in skill development.
On the second leg of his visit, the President will travel to Belarus on June 2nd. He will jointly address a business conference along with his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko and also unveil a statue of Mahatma Gandhi. A refurbished power project for which the work has been done by BHEL will be inaugurated by the President. Also, agreements covering SEBI and Ministry of Finance, Bureau of Indian Standards as well as one between Prasar Bharati and National State Television are expected to be signed. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
And to discuss what can we expect from this very crucial visit, we have with us in our studio this morning Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, editor at the Hard News. A very good morning, sir, and welcome to Rajya TV. Yes. First of all, tell us what are the expectations, what's likely to be high on agenda of this very crucial visit?
You know, if you look at it, it's a very important visit. It's a business visit. Normally when the President goes, it's more optics and nothing much comes out of it. So surely he's carrying forward much of the agenda of this government. So there is a discussion about skilling India, digital India, Swachh Bharat, all these issues that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been talking about. I'm sure that our President also will somehow see where are the business possibilities, what kind of cooperation, collaboration they could have with the Swedish government. Swedish is a very evolved, developed society. It's a very old partner of India. Since 1920s, we've had collaboration at different levels. About 150 odd companies, Swedish companies, which are mostly multinationals, have offices in India. And they have employed about 700,000
Mr. Kapoor, it's very interesting. As you pointed out, trade relations between India and Sweden go back to the 1920s. Still, despite all these years, despite so many companies investing in India, Swedish companies investing in India, the Sweden ambassador in a very recent interview said that the country is still struggling with trade barriers in India. Do you think in this 1 year, the Narendra Modi government has done anything to cut red tapeism?
You know, this is, as I have said even in earlier programs, it is not just about bureaucratic red tapeism. It is also about mindset. We are in a certain way very xenophobic about investments coming in. We have our own views on that. So although we would say that in so many words that we want investments in our country, but on many occasions we've seen it never comes easily, because issues like what they say, tax terrorism, then also the reservations about repatriation of profits back to their country. There are multiple issues where there is a conflict on how much of investment you allow and what kind of environment you should create. Indians, as it is, are most uncomfortable with foreign investment, although the Prime Minister is trying very hard, because there is a bureaucracy which has its own views on how we should do it. It's a legacy of the Nehruvian era, where foreign investment was seen with great amount of suspicion. It was seen to direct or take away the trajectory of India's growth path in a different direction altogether. So it's not going to go away very easy, and I'm sure Prime Minister Narendra Modi may have tried, but results are going to take a fairly long time to
Exactly.
come
So
in.
when it comes to important trade partners like Sweden, what do you think what are the options that the government has to cut down on those trade barriers which Sweden is concerned about?
I mean, it's a country which is very strong on, encouraging their own exports. So they want lowering of barriers on many counts. So, but with the international WTO regime, there are barriers which have come down dramatically in comparison to what used to be earlier. But surely they would want greater inflows, a greater amount of freedom in areas like renewable where they want to invest. They would also like a greater amount of freedom in other infrastructure projects, because where it comes to renewable, there is a problem pertaining to equipment. And European Union has been trying to say that, the equipment they need to be provided the same level playing field as Indian equipment manufacturers. So there are certain issues that keep on cropping up from time to time, but they are not insurmountable. It is a matter of, I think, greater realization on part of India that they need a certain amount of technology which can only come from evolved and developed country like Sweden, which are, you can say, politically neutral. They do not weigh down heavily on what India should do. And they have been partners when it comes to on issues of universal disarmament, on human rights. Our earlier Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and Olof Palme had struck a good relationship, and they talked about global peace. So there are a number of areas where we converge. And and recently there was an article which was written leading daily in Delhi by the Foreign Minister of Sweden, where she talks about human rights and how the rights of women can also be an area of conversation between the two countries.
Right.
And Sweden is very, very passionate about it. So I think there is plenty to discuss. But unfortunately, the entire trip started at a very unsavory note, and there was a talk about the Bofors controversy.
So talk of this visit, and not mentioning the Bofors scandal that hit just before the president's very crucial visit. Do you think in any way this is going to weigh down on this visit?
The thing is that Bofors somehow got identified with Sweden, and all the good things that may have happened between the two countries kind of got bypassed. And for years, the taint of Bofors was always there whenever a discussion came up between the two countries. But to have the President's visit being weighed down by it, I think it is rather unfortunate. And one never expected newspaper to somehow ask the issue with the President, who had nothing much to do with it. And he categorically said that the issue had not been taken very seriously by the court and had been thrown out by Indian courts, although there was a great amount of media trial. One of the channels which was supposed to accompany us also decided to drop out. So it's a very unsavory manner in which the whole thing has started. But I'm sure President has the experience, President has the bandwidth to take over or overwhelm these kind of niggles which are going to spring up in this particular visit of his.
We also hope that this particular controversy doesn't weigh down on this crucial visit, and the president is able to complete whatever job he's gone there for. Many thanks, Mr. Kapoor, for joining us this morning and giving us those details. Now, the President Pranab Mukherjee has also approved the land ordinance, which was cleared by the cabinet for the third time. It was reissued after the ordinance in March that was due to lapse on the 3rd of June. The amended bill is under consideration of a joint committee of parliament. This even as opposition continues its criticism against the government's land policy.
The controversial land ordinance was re-promulgated for the third time on Sunday. President Pranab Mukherjee gave his assent despite opposition protests over the proposed bill. On Saturday, the cabinet had decided to re-promulgate the ordinance, insisting it was necessary for maintaining continuity and providing a framework to compensate people whose land is acquired. The ordinance will now have to be laid before both houses of Parliament. During the budget session, the government failed to convert the proposed land acquisition bill into a law. And going by the opposition's stand, it will not be an easy task in the next session either.
Why is the ordinance being promulgated for the third time when the JPC is actually seized of the matter and has to report to the Parliament before the next monsoon session? Therefore, there is a huge disconnect between what is being said and what is actually being done.
We are 100% with farmers. This bill is very, very bad. And Trinamool, we are happy to say, have been the most consistent on this issue. We haven't done flip-flop. So our stance is unchanged, 100% no to this land bill.
हम इस लैंड बिल के पक्ष में नहीं है, हम हटबाजी के विपक्ष में नहीं है। कोई सरकार तानाशाही तरीके से गरीबों की जमीन को लेना चाहे, ये समाजवादी पार्टी कभी स्वीकार नहीं करेगी।
Despite facing criticism from some of its southern allies, BJP continues to defend the proposed land bill as key for development.
This land bill in the interest of the development of the country. This bill has been taken it up.
The land ordinance was issued for the first time in December last year to amend the law passed in 2013. The government had prorogued Rajya Sabha during the budget session to reissue it in March this year. The tabled bill was passed with 10 amendments in Lok Sabha, but the government has not taken it to the Rajya Sabha, where it lacks numbers to pass it. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And time now to look at all the likely action today in the day ahead. The final arguments in a 2G scam-related money laundering case in which former Telecom Minister A. Raja, DMK MP Kanimori and 17 others are facing trial will commence today before a special court. The court had fixed the date for final arguments on the 17th of April after the recording of evidence in the case in which the Enforcement Directorate had named 19 accused, including 9 firms in its charge sheet. The charge sheet had been filed against the accused for alleged offences under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Congress leader and industrialist Naveen Jindal, former Minister of State for Coal Dasari Narayan Rao, former Jharkhand Chief Minister Madhu Kora and 12 others are likely to appear as accused before a special court in connection with the coal blocks allocation scam case. Former Coal Secretary Harish Chandra Gupta and some others, including 5 companies, have also been summoned as accused in the case that pertains to alleged irregularities in the allocation of Amarkonda Murga Dangal coal block in Jharkhand. A Delhi court will today hear an income tax case in which Sahara chief Subrata Roy and others have been accused of not filing returns for a group company for the year 2013-14. The matter had been posted for further proceedings after the court was informed that the Delhi High Court had stayed proceedings of the case till the next month. On 24th March, the court had issued production warrant for the appearance of Roy and 2 directors of Sahara India Commercial Corporation Limited as they had failed to appear before it in spite of its summons served to them earlier. And time now for a very quick break, but coming up on the program ahead, the trial run for the first bus service between Kolkata and Agartala through Dhaka today. More on that when we return. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. Now, Prime Minister-led panel will be meeting today to decide on the chiefs of Central Information Commissioner and Central Vigilance Commission. The meeting has been convened at the Prime Minister's residence and will be attended by Home Minister Rajnath Singh, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, Leader of Congress in the Lok Sabha Mallikarjun Kharge, and Minister of State for Personnel Jitendra Singh, official sources said. The last meeting of the panel held on the 23rd of May had remained inconclusive. The names for the post of Information Commissioners in CIC and Vigilance Commissioners in CVC are also likely to be finalized in the meeting today. Earlier this month, Congress President Sonia Gandhi and Party Vice President Rahul Gandhi had questioned the delay in appointments of chiefs of CIC, CVC and Lokpal by the Modi government. And Telangana Legislative Council elections will take place today to fill 6 seats. But in a major embarrassment to the N. Chandrababu Naidu-led TDP, the Anti-Corruption Bureau arrested its MLA Revant Reddy for allegedly trying to give a bribe of 50 lakh rupees to nominated MLA Elvis Stephenson to vote in favour of a TDP nominee. The ACB on Sunday night took Reddy and 2 others into custody and is now questioning them. The trap was laid after Stephenson lodged a complaint with the ACB. Meanwhile, Reddy alleged that he was being falsely implicated in the case by Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao. The TRS appears to have an edge in these elections to get its 5th candidate elected. The election is necessitated after opposition parties filed disqualification petitions against some MLAs who joined the ruling party post last year's assembly polls, and there are 7 candidates in fray for 6 seats in the council to be voted by the MLAs.
చంద్రబాబు నాయుడు గారిని కలవడానికి నేను బయలుదేరినా ఇక్కడ తార్నాకలో ఉన్నా మీరు రాండి అని చెప్తే ఇక్కడికి రావడం జరిగింది. ఇక్కడికి నాకు రావాల్సినంత అవసరం కానీ నాకు ఏం పని ఉంది ఇక్కడికి రావడానికి.
The government intentionally they are made a plan. They are operated a sting operation. They arrested him. Why they arrested? What they recovered? Why they want to do it? Nobody understands. So it is undemocratic. It is not fair. It is unfair. It is unconstitutional. Talking each other is not the crime.
Well, the trial run of the much-awaited Kolkata Dhakatala bus service will begin today. The service, aimed at easy movement of people of 2 Indian states separated by Bangladesh, is likely to be inaugurated when Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Dhaka on the 6th and 7th of June. This is the first bus service to connect the 2 northeastern states through Bangladesh. The Dhaka-Kolkata service was introduced in 1999 and the one between Dhaka and Agartala in 2003. The cross-Bangladesh service was approved at a recent meeting between Bangladesh Road Transport Minister Obaidul Qadir and his Indian counterpart Nitin Gadkari in New Delhi. It had been sought for long by the people of Tripura and other adjoining states for travelling through Bangladesh without changing their vehicles. It takes nearly 3 days to travel from Kolkata to Agartala, the capital of Tripura, a 1,650-kilometre distance by land. Now the journey will take less than 24 hours. The 2 countries recently completed a trial run of the Dhaka-Shillong-Guwahati service. It is also expected to be opened during the Prime Minister's visit. And time now for some more national news and updates in Nationwide. Get ready to pay more on your mobile, hotel and travelling bills as the service tax has increased to 14% effective from today. The service tax rate increase was announced in the budget, will go up from the current 12.36%. This includes a basic service tax rate of 12% and an education cess of 0.36%. The service fares of airlines, banking, insurance, advertising and credit cards are also set to increase. The fares for first class and AC classes and passenger trains, besides freight charges, will also go up by 0.5%. 5 infants have died at a government hospital in the Gorakhpur district of Uttar Pradesh. Infuriated parents accused the hospital authorities of negligence, which led to the death of their newborns. The hospital authorities have stated that infants died of clogged windpipe. The families have alleged that the nurses did not even touch the infants due to the absence of doctors in the hospital. Home Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated a fortified police station in insurgency-hit Sukma district of Chhattisgarh. Speaking on the occasion, the Home Minister said that the state and central government are committed to fight the Naxals. He also said that the government was looking to accelerate development programs in the state. Rajnath Singh is on a 2-day tour to the state. Well, torrid weather conditions continue to prevail in several parts of the country, claiming 41 more lives in worst-hit Andhra Pradesh as the nationwide death toll mounted to 2,248. The death toll in Andhra now stands to 1,677. In neighbouring Telangana, a total of 541 people have died so far. Nagpur continued to swelter at 47.1 degrees, while Banda in Uttar Pradesh recorded a scorching 46.4 degrees. Death toll due to the sunstroke in Odisha remained at 21. 7 deaths have also been reported from Gujarat and 2 from Delhi. Weather conditions have, however, improved in Odisha with a drop in the mercury level. The Met Office has predicted light rain and thunder showers at 1 or 2 places in South Odisha. Delhiites also had some respite from the searing heat as mercury settled at normal levels within the city, recording a maximum temperature of 40.6 degrees, which is normal for this season. And we slip into another very short break. But after that, US Secretary of State John Kerry is in hospital after a bike crash. Details when we return. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Let's now get you all the international updates. The US Senate is embroiled in a heated debate over the future of telephone spying powers to the US Security Service, the NSA. As a midnight deadline looms on the surveillance system, the rare meeting was called to try to avert the expiry of the key anti-terrorist laws. But Republicans, who enjoy majority in both houses, question the legality of the law.
The US Senate has only a few hours left before the US National Security Agency could be forced to shut off its vast surveillance system. In a last-ditch attempt, the US Senate on Sunday convened a rare session to pass the legislation allowing the security services to collect phone records and sweep up other information of Americans. Liberals in the Senate want to scrap the program altogether, terming the practice illegal. Although Republicans control both the Senate and the House of Representatives, the party's leaders have been unable to reach a consensus on how to deal with the deadline. There were some who warned the phone records program could expire at a time of heightened militant threats.
Let us be clear, we are here tonight because the president continues to conduct an illegal program. We are not collecting the information of spies. We are not collecting the information of terrorists. We are collecting all American citizens' records all of the time. This is what we fought the revolution over.
Meanwhile, conservatives and security experts advised keeping the bill in its current form. US President too, in his weekly address, warned that the failure to act by the Senate could put Americans at risk. Some new measures have already been backed by the House of Representatives and the White House, but a vote in the Senate requires a minimum of 60 votes for the program to survive.
When investigating terrorist networks, our national security professionals can seek a court order to obtain certain business records. Our law enforcement professionals can seek a roving wiretap to keep up with terrorists when they switch cell phones. We can seek a wiretap on so-called lone wolves, suspected terrorists who may not be directly tied to a terrorist group. These tools are not controversial. Since 9/11, they've been renewed numerous times. FBI Director James Comey says they are essential and that losing them would severely impact terrorism investigations.
We just take it up and pass it. Opponents of this bipartisan common sense legislation have run out of excuses. I see it as a manufactured crisis. The legislation would end the NSA bulk collection of Americans' phone records. It has significant new reforms that would limit government surveillance, increase transparency, but also promote greater accountability and oversight, something the Patriot Act did not have.
The failure to pass the legislation would mean that key provisions of the anti-terrorist law would expire, including other government investigative powers, effective from Monday midnight. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And US Secretary of State John Kerry broke his right leg in a bike crash on Sunday. He is reported to have hit a curb while cycling in the Alps in France. He was immediately rushed to the main hospital in Geneva and is reported to be in a stable condition. He will now be returning to Boston for further treatment. Following the accident, his visits to Madrid and Paris have been cancelled. He was in Geneva for a meeting with Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif to seal a comprehensive accord by the 30th of June. The injury could affect other potential trips, such as the one to the Cuban capital to raise the flag at a restored US embassy. Meanwhile, stepping up its fight against the Islamic State, Iraq on Sunday conducted a number of airstrikes in Anbar and Salahuddin provinces. The Iraqi forces targeted militant positions north of Baghdad, claiming to have damaged headquarters and militant equipments. The forces said a large number of militants were killed in the airstrikes. Meanwhile, the United States and its allies also carried out 17 airstrikes on Islamic State in Iraq and Syria in the last 24 hours. The offensive comes as the Iraqi Defense Minister Khalid al-Obeidi hosted the British ambassador to Iraq, Frank Baker. The two discussed bilateral relations and UK's support to Iraq as part of the international coalition against the Islamic State. And children in Nepal returned to their schools 5 weeks after a powerful earthquake ravaged several parts of their country. Low attendance will be a matter of concern as authorities grapple to provide infrastructure after thousands of schools were reduced to rubble.
Thousands of children affected by the April 25th earthquake in Nepal returned to school on Sunday. 5 weeks after the disaster killed more than 8,600 people. Sunday is the working day in Nepal, however, no formal classes were planned at most schools.
We have missed so much of stories. We used to have fun, and in that way, at the house we have to sit alone and we have nothing to do at all.
एक महिनापछि भेटिरहेछ सबै साथीहरु छन् रमाइलो भइरहेछ.
Around 8,000 schools were damaged by the 7.8 magnitude earthquake. The reopening of schools was initially planned for May 17th, but a 7.4 magnitude on May 12th forced the authorities to push back the date of reopening.
We have to start. There's no choice, because education means future. If you don't start now, even it's going to affect your futures. So that's what we planning to start the school.
The government and relief agencies have built 137 temporary learning centers for 14,000 children who attended schools across Nepal on Sunday. Over 4,500 education centers will have to be built to accommodate students who have been forced out of their classrooms by the quake.
We are seeing at least some temporary learning centers have been established like this one, and then children started coming back to school.
Taking precautionary measures, the Education Ministry in Nepal had said that schools should open only if their buildings were declared safe by experts. The government also invited parents to inspect school buildings before sending their children to classes. According to UNICEF, nearly 1 million children have been affected by the quakes, and around $24 million was needed to set up the learning centers and to train more than 19,000 teachers and volunteers on psychosocial support. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now a look at all the sporting action in our segment, the Sportsbeat. The third and final one-day international between Pakistan and Zimbabwe ended in no result due to rain on Sunday as the home team clinched the series 2-0. Zimbabwe's target was revised to 281 in 46 overs on the Duckworth-Lewis method after a dust storm and power failure stopped play for 52 minutes. But heavy rain arrived after only 1 over when play resumed and it didn't subside before umpires called off the match with Zimbabwe cruising at 68 for 0 in 9 overs. British Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport John Whittingill renewed calls for FIFA President Sepp Blatter to step down, saying all options should be considered when it came to pressuring him to resign, including boycotting the World Cup. Blatter won a vote on Friday to serve a 5th term as FIFA president, even though the US Department of Justice has charged 9 soccer officials with corruption and Swiss authorities are conducting their own criminal investigation. Blatter has played down the impact of the scandal on one of the world's most powerful sports bodies, which takes in billions of dollars in revenue from TV marketing rights and sponsorships. Soren Jelsen ended a 6-year victory drought to become the 3rd Danish winner of the Irish Open, capturing a 4th career title with a birdie at the first extra playoff hole. The 40-year-old, who also qualified for the Open Championship thanks to the win, went into the last day at the Royal County Down course, leading by 2 shots, but saw that disappear when commencing his round with back-to-back bogeys. That's all we have for you in this morning edition. Have a nice day. Goodbye.